All right.
Look at you, taller than me. I need a chair. I mean a pillow. All right, here, let me give him a collar.
All right.
This is a hoodie.
All right. I'm joined by Jim Jenks, who was APSE president in 2006, 2007, while at the Philadelphia Inquirer. And I'm Erik Hall. I'm the digital sports at the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. Thanks for joining me, Jim.
Thanks for having me.
So how did you get involved with APSE?
Well, it goes back to probably 1994, right after I became sports editor of the Santa Rosa Press-Democrat. Being a first-time sports editor, having worked at some big papers before that, I was familiar with APSE, obviously familiar with the contest. And when I became a sports editor, it was something I really wanted to get into. Primary reasons just to see what other people were doing, and you hear about so much success in looking at the contest and looking at papers and how solid they were, how good they were, the ideas, the writing, everything that made a good sports section. So for me, that was really, I wanted to find out what others were doing, what my peers were doing, and continue to learn, right? Because starting out as a sports editor, I had I had my ideas, I had my concepts, I had my administrative side, but where was I on the creative side? How could I motivate my people, my writers, my copy desk? It was all those factors. It was just, I really wanted to learn and get better at what I did through mentors, through peers, people who had been in the, jobs a lot longer than I had.
Yeah.
And just, that was really it, the whole networking concept to grow.
How did you become president of APSE?
That was a stroke of timing, really. I had left the newspaper industry after Santa Rosa. I went to the internet, helped launch some pretty popular, large internet sites. And through that, I worked for Paul Allen, who's the owner of the Trailblazers and the Seahawks, and we created NFL.com, NBA.com, NASCAR.com, and eventually, they created ESPN.com too. Eventually, Paul sold the company to Disney. I went to ESPN, did 3 years there, and they were kind of guiding me more toward a technological side, the stats and information side, and I still wanted to be creative, and I ended up going to the Philadelphia Inquirer, and that's where the timing came in. I started in January of 2003. I learned right away that we were the host of the convention that year, and I was like, whoa. So you're kind of thrown, I was thrown into it, and obviously the president at the time, relied on me to, get everything built out in Philadelphia. And for me, just being new to the area, new to the market, it was valuable because I got to go and plan what would be some of the things that we did, to see Philadelphia, to the opening ceremony at the National Constitution Center, the pub crawl, all those different things. And I think what it did was it just kind of put me as an individual and the Philadelphia Inquirer as a sports section under the microscope. And I had been the region chair. I don't even think I was region chair because it happened so fast. So there was a special election because Celeste Williams, who was already already, I think the second or first vice president got sick,
Okay.
and she had to resign. She eventually passed away. Um, but there was a special election, and they took two spots, and I decided to run because, again, having been in APSE in the 90s and then stepped away, I'd always thought I wanted to be involved with the organization from a leadership standpoint. And so I ran, and Mike Fannin and myself were elected. And I skipped right to the second vice president or first vice president, right to the contest. I didn't have to do the newsletter and the second vice president role. So it was went right to the contest, and then went to the presidency. But it was something I wanted to do, but it kind of got expedited.
Yeah.
I didn't have to do the regent chair, and I didn't have to do the second vice president role. So my run was 2 years as opposed to the 3.
Okay. What are you most proud of from your time being president and what you had accomplished?
Yeah. So my presidency was unique in a way that I focused more on the business end, because we were at a time when Knight Ridder was, I worked for Knight Ridder, and it was starting to get putting papers up for sale, right? And we could see the industry going into what has inevitably been a big decline.
Yeah.
And so I took it a different route, in that rather than focusing on what went in my sports section or what went in, focusing the convention on those types of things, I tried to focus it on the business side. What is the sports editor's role in helping the company make money, which is really the bottom line for everything, right? So we focused on advertising and sponsorship, the relationships that went into that. We brought in, business type people as well to talk to the membership. And how many sports editors at the time even had a relationship with their sponsorship department, their advertising and sponsorship? Did they even know who the reps were? And we spent a lot of time on that. We also did the first Mall of Ideas kind of situation. We were probably one of the first to bring in outside money from people we cover, which was controversial at the time. We had Dana White from, the UFC, and we had, like I said, the Mall of Ideas, where people paid us money to come in and set up their things their products that could help make, sports sections better. And so it was a different concept. Again, having left the business and then come back, I had seen how sponsorships, again, the whole church and state argument, where it needed to be evaluated and broken down where it could be broken down to help you, me, any sports editor really understand where we're going as an industry, not just what we're putting in the paper.
Yeah.
So I would say that was probably what I was most proud of, kind of stepping out and looking at the industry a little bit different.
How do you think that conference went, bringing in those different ideas?
I thought it went well. I got some very positive feedback. I also got the controversial feedback. But that's good, right? I mean, when you look at how we have moved in the future, I think it was good. I think it was a strong idea. And again, with controversy comes change. And I did hear from sports editors after the fact that it was something they were appreciative of and now understand more than they did before. And again, in the learning process of what we're doing, I thought that was important.
What are some other memories of conferences or conventions?
The camaraderie.
Yeah.
Why we're here now in judging. I mean, I've been away from the newspaper business since 2007, and it's 2023. I still judge. I still find it to be enlightening. Still learning. I've moved over more to the visual context, but good writing works there. And a lot of what APSE is doing now in the contest and the digital and the video side of it and all that, I was probably a little ahead of the game there as I was when I jumped to the internet very early on in 96. So it's the sharing of ideas, it's the mentoring, the giving back to the younger people. I remember coming in, I was a young sports editor, right? And you're looking up to the people who have had successes. So I would say the networking thing, far and above everything else, is why I like to be still involved with APSE, and why I got involved. Now I've transitioned from being the young guy to the old guy, but still to sit and talk with, the other organizations, awesome, NABJ, those groups on the diversity side, to mentor young sports editors, young writers, young people just getting into the industry. I find that to be the greatest reward at this point is the give back, and the sharing, and just sitting down talking with people.
What's some of the value through personal relationships that you've had and being involved with APSE?
Well, so I mean, I've had friends in this organization forever. I look at somebody like Glenn Crevier, who I replaced at the Santa Rosa Press Democrat, who I replaced as APSE president. So we've had that bond forever. George, who's president now, we go back a long way. Still have pictures of George and I in Torino, celebrating my birthday and Valentine's Day and all, just silly stuff like that, where, and there's just so many stories and friendships that you make along the way. Working with the Association for Women in Sports Media, when, I left to go to Major League Baseball, there were issues with that whole church and state thing with APSE. So I focused my time and efforts in the professional organization, on working with Awesome, because they have, a more, I don't want to say more robust, but a larger, they deal with PR, they deal with television, they deal with, print. It's not just the print and the newspaper side. My dealings with NABJ and Leon Carter with the Sports Journalism Institute, speaking to that group for, quite a few years. Sandy Bailey, those are, mentoring those young people. That's really what I've taken out of it now is just those relationships that aren't just you and me here at the convention, at a judging convention, but those that are in the industry in other areas. And I learned a lot. I've learned a lot from them too. Especially on the diversity front, getting plugged into that, finding out who the good candidates are. When you sit in an office and you just look at resumes, you're not getting the full picture. And when you come out and you do this and you shake hands with people and you sit, at a table with people and discuss, and I listen. try not to talk as much as I'm doing now, but do a lot more listening.
Yeah. What advice would you give to future presidents of APSE?
It's difficult. I listened yesterday, at the meeting, the general meeting, and it is very, very difficult right now for APSE. I think the people that, from, Gary last year and George, I think they have to be extremely open-minded to change. The industry is not the industry that the bylaws were written for.
Yeah.
And I think, constant examination of where and what the organization is now and where the industry is heading needs to be the focus, needs to be the evaluation. Things need to change. And this isn't unique. I mean, when I left newspaper industry the first time, I stayed active in APSE. I went to a conference in 1996 in Atlanta and was one of a couple people who said, you need to look at the internet. And, the organization wasn't ready to look at the internet yet. And it took almost the whole time till I came back, and not because of me. Glenn and others started it before that, but I certainly latched onto it and said, yes, they need to be more involved, right? We're losing credentials to them. We're losing, newspaper space to them. We're losing, eyeballs to them. We're losing revenue to them. We got to embrace it, figure out how to embrace it. So, yeah.
What are you doing now?
So right now I run media for a company called Perfect Game. It's a youth and amateur baseball event and scouting company. It's, again, a kind of a unique adventure in that we've created for an event and scouting company that does over 10,000 events a year. We've created a 24/7 linear channel called perfectgame.tv. I work very closely with Darren Sutton, who is Don Sutton's son. He's kind of the face, and I'm kind of the behind the scenes administrative budget. And, our platform is, on Roku now, Fubo TV. We're looking at other OTTs and fast channels to put it out on. So it's a whole new world, right? It's funny because I want to touch on this because when I was at the Philadelphia Inquirer, people, the cell phone had evolved into something more than just a communication, a telephone call device. And I went to our publisher and said, we really need to hook up with, we got Comcast right here in Philadelphia. The hub is right here. Why don't we hook up with them and work on the alert system, breaking news and communicating? It was just happening. And I remember speaking to a college class at Penn State. And again, this is how old I am, right? I held up a phone and said, this is what your future is going to be. Everything's going to be on. You can do, you're going to be able to do. And I wasn't a visionary. I was getting this from other people, but I could see it, right? And look now, it's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, we're all reading our newspapers on the, what I remember my speech in St. Louis as I was leaving. I said, newspapers is not an industry. It's an antiquated distribution system, right? It's the news is the news. It's going to be there. It's going to, we just have to figure out how to monetize it and be better at it. And that, again, was part of my convention, there. And that was how I wrapped it up. And again, it's not me, but I could see, what was going on. And there's a little bit of I told you so in there, but it's we told you so, right? and we're grappling with it.
Yeah.
As an organization, we're grappling with it. As an industry, they're grappling with it, and it's just going to continue to evolve. And Perfect Game has allowed me to go out and play in the futuristic world there a little bit, while telling the stories of the athletes who will be part of Major League Baseball in the future. We're getting them and teaching them media at 12, 13, 14 years old. And, putting them on stage, putting them on camera, putting them, in situations where they can better deal with the media.
Yeah.
And it's fun. It's rewarding. Again, it's kind of a give back while trying to break some new ground.
Yeah. Sounds very cool.
It is very cool. And again, when I see players breaking in, the Kyle Tuckers of the world, who I worked with as a 12-year-old, Nico Horner, who I worked with as a 12-year-old. There's other Nolan Gorman. These guys are just coming in right now, right? Last couple years, but every year now, there's a player coming in that we worked with as 12, 13, 14-year-olds. And that's incredible. Yeah. That's the most fun. Yeah. And that's why I said, people, in my personal life, ask what you do. And, I say I have one of the best jobs in the world, because I get to help storytell, and then watch them grow and celebrate draft nights with them. They disappear for a couple of years in minor league baseball and just kind of keep in touch, say, how you doing? And then when they get that call, we're usually kind of part of it in some way.
I'm glad you found that.
Yeah, no, I've never struggled with anything on the professional side except for bosses who were very close-minded, right? It's always just been fun. This is a great industry. Yeah. And there's so many stories out there, and part of judging is just getting to read a lot of those stories. And again, if I was still in this industry, I'd be stealing story ideas, right? Yeah. For me, as I'm reading through it, if something comes across my plate that's along the lines of what we're doing at Perfect Game, I won't hesitate to reach out to that subject, to say, hey, we can do, want to learn more about you. Yeah. So, it's been cool. It's been fun.
All right. Well, thanks so much for your time, Jim. Is there anything else you want to add?
No, just, good luck to, the presidents and the organization in the future. It's going to evolve, and I'm not the negative one who's going to say, you need it. You need that good luck. No, because everybody's going to evolve, and the visionaries, the people who want that to be president, they've got that visionary chip in there. They're guiding it. They're going to make changes, and changes again probably will be controversial, but in the end, the change will be good.
Yeah. All right. Thanks so much.